Joining us now is Republican Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma, and thanks for joining us. I know that this is going to be the topic later today on the House side as the president will make his way to meet with House Republicans. But whatever the House decides to do also needs to be able to pass the Senate. And what do you think the prospects are for that, sir?
Well, I think this is a good first step to be able to walk through the process to be able to figure out how to solve this. This is one of several issues the administration has raised for a long time, and quite frankly, in February, this was one of the things that the Senate voted on. We got bipartisan support, but we didn't get 60 votes on it, and a proposal that the president came up with that is part of this, what's called a Flores agreement, trying to be able to solve this. So we voted on this. I've had folks say, this is new. This is not new. We voted on this in the Senate, but it just didn't get 60 votes to try to solve this then. We need to be able to bring it back up and to be able to solve it now. This is a bad trap the administration is in. They either have the choice of fulfilling the law and actually holding to the law, or having families be separated on that. That's a bad choice that previous administration just said we will just ignore the law. This administration said we're going to abide by the law.
But they did choose to try the zero tolerance policy, which is why it's all ramped up since April, right? I mean,
it is. That's the big
discretion
change.
There.
There is some discretion, but. Go ahead.
All right. Let me just read to you from David French of the National Review, because I think this makes a lot of sense. He said about Congress, if you can't pass legislation permitting families to be held together, then you're a servant of the executive branch. Yes, activists are right when they say that Trump could stop family separations tomorrow if he wished. But the best check on the president isn't hashtags or press releases or think pieces. It's the check the founders designed, an active Congress exercising its lawful authority over immigration in America. The president sounded a little frustrated today that at least with one of the bills, perhaps he was referring to Ted Cruz's idea about immigration judges and trying to deal with this one particular issue might not go far enough. But is it something you think that could actually get done? Because you might not be able to get the other things that the president wants. And for family separation to stop, you have to do something on the congressional level.
We do. The administration has some ability to be able to have some flexibility. For instance, they could give the option to be able to say voluntary return. It's when charges are filed, you actually have the separation. If you give the families the opportunity to do a voluntary return, then you could expedite that process. They could return as a family, stay as a family. In the meantime, though, I think Congress does need to respond to this. This is something the president's asked for a year and a half now. This is something that's been a problem with the legislative branch and executive branch since 1997.
Right.
So this needs to be resolved, and I do agree that Congress has to act on this. That's why it was in the February bill. That's why it needs to be addressed now. But we need to also deal with border security. We got to deal with DACA issues. All those things have to be resolved.
Yeah,
but in the meantime, let's do this small slice.
Right. And there's one other thing I think that some people would like to see addressed, and that is the asylum claims. I understand that Congressman Meadows is going to introduce legislation that would try to alter the way that people are granted asylum, what they have to prove, and how expedited that might be, and how you deal with children from all countries, not just a few. Would you support revising those asylum standards?
Well, the key thing, I'd have to look at his bill to see it, but the key thing we have to do is have a faster process to go through on the asylum hearings. Right now, about 30% of the individuals that request asylum actually are granted asylum. That was true during the Obama administration. That's true during the Trump administration as well. So about 30% of those actually have an asylum claim. The other 70% are sent back to home country. They've not qualified for it, again, during the Obama administration or now, either one. So the first things first, let's get them to trial faster. Let's get that hearing done so it's not 2 years before we get an asylum ruling even, and just release people into the country, which is the past policy, is just release them in the country.
Right. Let me also ask you just one other thing. Late breaking this afternoon is that Nikki Haley, the UN ambassador, has indicated that the United States will be withdrawing from the Human Rights Council. There was about 3 years during the Bush administration where the U.S. government pulled out, boycotted that council, but that's going to happen today, mainly because of terrible anti-Israeli bias. But there are other things as well. Do you support that idea?
I absolutely do support that idea. The UN Human Rights Council is headed up by some of the worst human rights violators in the world, that they're actually in the leadership of the council year after year after year. They're anti-Israel over and over again. That's their constant drumbeat. So I get it. We can try to be there and so we can be a participant in it. But when you're there, we vote no every time, and it just becomes a problem every time as well. So it doesn't seem to make a difference whether we're there or not there.
All right. Well, that announcement is expected at 5 o'clock today, so we'll have that for you on Fox News. Senator James Lankford, thank you.
Thank you.